actually, I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience and me going to university and why. I did graduate from a few Ivy League schools. I'll tell you a little bit about them, how I got there, and why I did it. So I graduated from a school here. I'm a Canadian who went to an American school. I graduated from a school here in Toronto, the University of Toronto Schools. Great school. It's basically what got me in and kind of helped me pave my path to where I went. Education was always really important to my family. They kind of inundated me with basically, you need to do this and you need to do this from a young age. My first kind of thing with US schools is I remember speaking to counselors at my school and trying to figure out where I wanted to go. In my mother's mind, she only knew one school, and she says, you have to go there, and that was Harvard. That was the only thing she knew. TV. I have a European mother, doesn't know much. Basically, Harvard was the only thing she heard. So you have to go to Harvard. I decided to go on a tour of US colleges and universities to really see what suited me best. We have different types of students out there. I graduated high school at 15 years old. The system in Ontario, basically, when I was young, threw me a little forward, unfortunately, which wasn't the best. But now I look back and I say thanks for it and so on and so forth. But I actually went on a tour to just check out different schools. For me, being from Canada and looking at our wonderful winters that we have here, I said, I want to go somewhere hot. That's my first thing. Send me to Florida, send me to California, send me somewhere warm. So I went around and checked out some schools. With my mother basically in my ear, basically saying Harvard was the only school you can go to. I came back and said, you know what, that's not where I want to go. I actually wanted to go to Vanderbilt. That was my first choice of schools. My mother actually said no, I'm sorry. And it was because she'd never heard of it. And really, that was it. But when I went there, I felt at home. So I chose something different. I actually did my undergrad at Brown. So I went to Brown University as an undergrad, and I picked that school for a specific reason. I'm a very independent learner, and I think that that's what kind of got me to where I am and why I was pushed ahead. When I was a kid, my teachers didn't like me so much. I was just talking to some people. I wasn't liked very much by my teachers. I was the student that would throw pens at my teacher because I was bored. And I would sit there and I would be in a math class and I'd be given an assignment and I would do this assignment and then all of a sudden 7 minutes later I'm finished but everybody else has an hour to do this and I was bored. So I was throwing pens at teachers, I was kicked out of class, I was sent to the principal's office more times than I can ever imagine. To where then they said, you know what, there's something with him. We need to figure out how to deal with this type of student. And then I decided to go to UTS and it helped. So I did my undergrad at Brown. And what I really enjoyed about that school was the independence that it offered me. And I can really study whatever I want. The campus was beautiful, it was safe, my parents saw it and said, okay. So I did my undergrad at Brown and then I decided I still don't know what I want to do. I have this piece of paper, I have this degree. So I went off and I did a master's of psychology. And I did my master's of psychology at Yale. And I went to Yale and I did my first master's degree and said, you know what, I still don't know what I want to do. But business interested me. So I went and did an MBA. So I did my MBA at Yale as well. And then I wasn't finished. And I basically decided that I still need more. So I worked for a year trying to decide really what I wanted to do. And I found this interesting field of psychology called behavioral psychology, human behavioral psychology. I went to Harvard. I did my PhD at Harvard. I decided that that's kind of where I saw myself at the end based on the program itself. Now with these schools, something that we have to realize is, and I think Lisa touched on it, is they're not cheap, okay? And it's very interesting to see finance as a perspective. My parents paid for my education. I was one of those lucky kids that basically my parents said go, and they did whatever they could to get me where I was. So where did that get me? Interesting. So for the last 10 years, I've been working as a behavioral profiler for the Ministry of Intelligence and Defense for the Republic of Italy. So I've actually been living in Italy for the last 10 years, working for their Ministry of Intelligence as a profiler. Now I'm back in Toronto, and it's nice to be back in Canada, where I'm consulting independently some different fields. But really, I'm here to really have you guys, if you have questions later, about the Ivy experience and about really what I experienced. And for counselors out there, it's really important to understand that we have different types of students. And exceptional students are students with different levels of really what they're getting into. They sometimes need a little bit of a push, and they sometimes need something to tell them, you know, maybe this is great for you, but let's see really where you fit. Why I chose an American school, and I think it's because there's 5,000 of them. And I looked in Canada, I looked in Toronto itself, and you know, we have York, we have University of Toronto, and we have Ryerson. So there's other ones, but those were the three that basically were there, and it just wasn't for me. And I really think that the opportunity in the States is very, very unique. And the fact that there are so many schools, there's a fit for everybody. And I really think that it's really, really important to find out where that student's fit is, because that's really what's going to make their academic success when they're in school. And I'm really happy I went to Brown at the end of it, because I was a little boy in some respect. I was a little child, and my parents dropped me off. I just turned 16 years old. And I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Where do I go? You know, people called me Doogie my whole life, basically at that point. And, you know, I sat there and I moved into a residence, and I was scared. And I had some great people that took me under their wing and basically really helped me adapt to student life there as well. And I think that when we're talking to our students about where to go to school, student life is really important. And there's so many factors that it's not just about the academics. The academics are very important, but it's really about where they fit in. And the fact that there are so many universities within the United States, there's something for everybody, and I really think that that's what the most important is. I'm here all morning. If you have questions, please feel free to talk and chat. If you're interested in finding out a little bit more about my experiences, I'm here to talk. Thank you very much.